I plan on doing one of my favorite things, an acrylic pour on a vase and a canvas. Very addicting. So I've been doing them now for about a year and a half or longer. I really love it. It's like one of my favorite things to do. It's very relaxing. March is Traumatic Brain Injury Awareness Month, and also Endometriosis Awareness Month. And for you who have been following me for a long time, know that I've got a traumatic brain injury from a severely bad car accident I was in years ago, and I have a video where I talked about that. And after this live, I will get that video and I will put a link in this. So for anyone who's interested in watching the video where I talk about the impact that the traumatic brain injury has on me in my daily life, you can go watch that. It's on my YouTube channel. And it does, just to briefly go over, it was in 94, I was going to Eastern Kentucky University. I was driving to school and I wrecked. It was a single car crash, and I was thrown from the vehicle. I hit a large farm fence post with my back, and it split my skull open, and I had to have staples in my skull, and I was bedridden for a while because of the damage it did to my back and the other damage to the rest of my body. And since then, I started having seizures. I have trouble concentrating. Sometimes I have trouble with words, getting the words out right, and comprehending things when someone's talking to me. Sometimes, it takes me a while to really comprehend what they're saying to me, and I'll have to ask them to repeat it. And then organizing or categorizing things. So I have trouble. It does affect me. And when all this stuff started happening, at first I didn't know I'd had the brain injury because of my accident. They didn't do any MRIs on my brain. I don't know why. They were more concerned about my back and my hips and my pelvic bone than my brain for some reason. But I found out years later when I started seeing a neurologist for the seizures and all that she did MRI, found the brain injury. But before I found out that I had traumatic brain injury, I didn't know what was going on, and I felt stupid, and I felt really insecure, and I got depressed and really down because I couldn't understand what was going on. And my family couldn't understand it either. And it is hard sometimes for people to, you have to have patience. My family does have to have patience with me. Like when I have trouble comprehending things, when they're talking to me and I'm not getting what they're saying, and I have to ask them to repeat it a number of times before it finally clicks in my head to where I'm understanding what they're saying. So it does take patience if you have a loved one who is dealing with traumatic brain injury. So there's that story. And the color for traumatic brain injury awareness is green, and that just happens to be my favorite color. So it's a perfect reason to do an acrylic pour using my greens. And then endometriosis, March Awareness Month also. When I was a teenager, I started having a lot of abdominal cramps and stuff. And I would end up in the hospital, in the emergency room, because mine would be so severe. And as the years went on, it just kept getting worse. My gynecologist told me he thought I had endometriosis, but the only way he could confirm that would be to do a laparoscopy, to go in there and see if there were any adhesions, any scar tissue. Because with endometriosis, when a woman has her menstrual cycle and she sheds that outer layer and it grows back, the tissue grows back to where it's not supposed to, like connects to other organs and just in the abdominal wall, and so it could get really compacted in there with that scar tissue or that adhesions that's not supposed to be there. They're just not growing where they're supposed to grow. So let's see, I had surgery, and it started out laparoscopy, but it ended up being a full incision because my uterus had collapsed due to that, and so my gynecologist tried to reconstruct that in 96, and because my husband and I had been trying to have a baby, I wanted a daughter, and we couldn't, and my gynecologist told me after my surgery the reason we couldn't was because where my uterus was collapsed, I was infertile. So, but after I had that, then I did get pregnant, and I had my daughter in 97. Then in 99, I was going to college at Eastern Kentucky University again, because I had taken a break after my car accident and after I had my children. And I started going back, and it was in April of 99, and I had let my son go off to school, got him on the bus. Then I went back into our apartment with my daughter, and I started getting ready for school because I was driving back and forth from where I lived to Eastern Kentucky University. And I had my daughter set up in the bathroom. I'd always sit her in the bathroom with toys and things while I took a shower. And I finished my shower. I was getting ready to step out, and I got this sharp pain that shot through my abdomen, and it doubled me over, and I couldn't move. And so I had to call for help. I called an ambulance, and then I called my mom. And my mom came, and they got there about the same time. The ambulance took me to the emergency room. But fast forward, because I don't want to spend too much time on this, because I do want to do the report and everything. I'm just trying to give you history as to why this is important to me, why the awareness for these two conditions are important to me. So I ended up in the emergency room, ended up admitted, and had tests, CAT scans, IVPs, and all this stuff, and they found I had gallstones. So they thought that's what my pain was coming from. But as the night went on, my pain kept getting more severe, and I started having fever. I started getting delusional from the pain, and it was a pain that I cannot explain, even worse than childbirth. I mean, it was just, the doctor, it was so bad, the doctor would come in, it was an internal medicine doctor who was keeping an eye on me in the hospital. He came in, and I would beg him to kill me because it was so bad. I mean, I kind of expressed how bad the pain was. And it was about 1:30 in the morning, and he decided he was going to rush me into emergency surgery and do a exploratory. And no one was with me. My mom had my children, and they lived over an hour away, and he called them to let them know what he was going to do. So I got rushed into the emergency room. And when I woke up, he had done a full incision from here down to my pelvic bone so that he could go in there and explore and see what was going on. When I woke up, he didn't stitch me up or staple it closed or anything. I was still open. What had happened was the adhesions, some of those adhesions from where I had endometriosis, had wrapped around my intestines and killed my intestines. I mean, it just wrapped around it and smothered it and killed it. So gangrene had set up in my intestines. And he had to remove 18 inches of my intestines, my ileum, duodenum, that area. And the reason he didn't close me was in case he didn't get all the gangrene and he had to go back in there, which did happen. The next day, he ended up taking me back in the ER and removing more because of that. And so I was in the hospital for a couple weeks, and while I was in there, he kept me open. Didn't staple me up until the day when I was leaving the hospital. And that was a while to heal from that surgery. So that's the history of why these conditions are important to me to get awareness out there. They are conditions, that can really have severe consequences and cause daily struggles. So that's why. And the color for endometriosis awareness is yellow. So I want to do all green and yellow, different shades of green and yellow. And I'm going to add whites and some silver, just because I have silver mixed up and I want to use it, and to kind of set off the green and yellow. So I have a vase that I got it at the Dollar Tree, just $1. You don't need anything fancy. And all I did to prep the vase is clean it with alcohol. It had this sticker on it, and those can be hard to get off. So all I did was I took a paper towel and got it really wet with alcohol, and I laid it on that sticker and let it sit for a while until it got really wet and soft. And then I used a sharp object and just scraped it on off. But I wiped the vase with alcohol, and I've got it on this cup because after I pour on the vase, I need to be able to get this to move this out of my way, because as the paint comes down, it's going to get on this canvas. And I'm using a canvas panel, so it's not very thick. And I taped off the back so that it doesn't look bad, because you can get paint one thing about acrylic pours, they can get messy. So I was trying my best to keep the back clean. So that's why I used art tape to cover that. So I think that's all the information. And I've got my Lazy Susan. I love this. This helps me a lot when I do paintings and things, so I can turn the canvas or whatever around to make sure I've got all the edges, or there aren't any places that I've missed paint, so that I can make sure I touch that up if I need to. Got the paint colors. And for my paint mixture, all my paint, when I mix all of my paint, no matter what it is, I use Floetrol. And I didn't flip this around, I'm sorry, so you can't read this. I forgot to flip my screen. But Floetrol, I get at Lowe's, and I put 1-to-1 Floetrol and paint, and then I'll stir it, and if it's not as thin as I want it, I will then add water. Not a lot at a time. I keep water in a bottle on my craft table, and this is just water I got out of the tap. So, but what I'll do is I'll add the paint and the Floetrol, and I'll mix it, and then I'll test it to see if it's as thin as I want. And if it's not, I just add a few drops of water at a time, because if you run, like I've done this, I've used like a certain color, and I used all the paint. I didn't have any left, and I put too much water in it, and it got too thin, and so I didn't have any paint left to thicken it up. So that wasn't good. So I've learned to just add a few drops at a time, mix it, see what the thickness is, if that's what I want. If not, add more, so that's how I do it. And with each different brand of paint that I use, there are different consistencies. Some are thicker and some are thinner. So it's some I don't even use water, and then some I use more water than I do in others. Okay, what I've got here, I've got shamrock. Like I said, I'm using different shades of green and yellow, and some of this I already made up, and I just wanted to use it, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to do it on this. So I've got shamrock green for one, and that is a lot of mine is the Anita's brand from Hobby Lobby. And I've got Sunshine Yellow, Apple Barrel Spring Green. Now some of these I don't have a lot, but it's enough. Then I've got Crisp Green from Apple Barrel, and this is Sunflower Yellow Anita's. I keep that mixed up, so I don't have all of that. And then Buttercup Yellow from Anita's from Hobby Lobby. Now Master's Touch, this is Grass Green, and this is my favorite one. And then I've got Titanium White from Anita's, and this is, I don't remember what silver this is because I've had this mixed up for months, so I don't remember, but I know it's Anita's. And it's a metallic silver. So I got all of my paints except for the apple barrel from Hobby Lobby's. So I'm going to do a dirty pour. It's my favorite way to pour on vases. I've tried the clean pour, and it's just not my cup of tea. I prefer the dirty pour. So what I'm going to do, let me explain a dirty pour to you. Yeah, you have to get a good sized cup because you have to put all these paints in the cup. The cup you put on the bottom, the color you put in first is the color that's going to come out last. So the color that you want to be like your main focus color, that's the color you want to put in first. And then you'll take each color and put some in the cup, and then you'll start over again and put a second layer of each color, and then however many layers that you need to. So you just keep pouring layers on top of layers. Okay, so the grass green is my favorite color, the shade of the green, and this is more close to the green color of the awareness ribbon. So I'm going to put this in first because this is the one I want to really see. Show you the consistency of that, but I'll try to see if you guys can see the consistency. See when you, I don't know if you guys can see how it will, when you get a little bit up and you go like that, it will cause a mound, and then it count like 3 seconds and the mound gone. That's the good consistency. Now, where I've been doing this for a while, I can just feel it. Like when I'm stirring the paint, I can tell if that's the consistency I want for the most part. So if you do it for a while, you get used to it and you can play it by ear or just eyeball it or whatever. And that's what I do a lot. So I'm going to start out with grass green, my favorite color. And let's just pour a little bit in here. I'm going to go green, yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow. So my next color is going to be the buttercup yellow. And I'm going to put white and silver in here. Should have done that first, but I forgot about them. So I will go ahead and I will put some white in it now. Now there are certain colors, I don't know, I think it's just the pigments of the paint that you don't have to put a lot in it, because if you put in too much, it can overtake the pour. And one of those colors just happened to be white and metallics. So next, I'm going to go with the spring crisp, or the crisp green, and I just want a hint of the white and the silver. So, and then the sunflower yellow. There are no rules. It's crafting, it's painting, it's creativity. So you do it however you want to do it. There's no wrong when it comes to crafting. Now I am doing the sunshine. Yeah, I can't see it. Read that close. I gotta get reading glasses. So the sunshine yellow. Now I need to make sure I've got enough paint in here to cover the vase and the canvas panel. And then the shamrock green. And then I will start over with the first colors that I did and go through all these again. And I keep a pair of tweezers on my craft table when I'm pouring, because sometimes you get boogers, paint boogers, and I use the tweezers to get a hold of them, to get them out of my pour. So now I don't think I really need a lot, as much as I would if I was doing a thick canvas, because the panels, if you put too much paint on them, they can get too wet and it soaks through, and I don't want that to happen. So I think this is the last bit that I'm going to pour in. And we'll see where we go from here. Alright, are you all ready for me to pour this? I want to make sure I get at an angle to where y'all can see. I'm just going to start pouring around the edge of the vase. I do the edges first because I don't want paint to gather in the center, because sometimes I've had it to where I've had it too thick in the center and it cracked as it dried. And I don't want that to happen. So first I'm pouring around the edges here. And it's filling in the center. My table's not even, so I don't know why, but it's not. Some of these are turning out really pretty. And I hate I'm having to cover some of this up, but I have to make sure I get everything covered. But I've got some pretty cells showing up in this. Let's turn this around. Wow, I'm really liking that. This is going to be so pretty. Now let's do some tree ring in the center. Okay. Now I gotta let it flow. Let it sit here until the flow slows down before I move the vase. All right. I think I've got enough of that off. So I'm going to set this to the side and let it continue to drip. I've got my paper towels here. I've got to keep paper towels handy because I try to reuse my gloves. So like when I'm finished with this, I'll go wash my gloves so I can continue to use them. Because my hands, if I don't have gloves on, the paint dries my hands out really, really bad. And I want to keep that from happening. So I try to reuse the gloves as many times as I can. And I can already tell I've got too much paint on that panel. So I need to do something else with the mask. Give me a minute. I'm going to get one of these plates that I use. And I'll show you. Okay. So I got this from the Dollar Tree. And it's just styrofoam. So now as you can see the pattern on the panel. And I just start tilting. And I'm going to hold it over the plate. So whatever drips off of the panel will go on the plate. I don't know. Let's see. I want to make sure you guys can see how I'm tilting this. And I definitely don't want to hit my vase. Knock it over. That would not be good. Oh, there's some dark green and I don't want to lose it, but it's going to have to go over the side to cover the corner. Okay. Now let's go down to this corner. And I always put a garbage bag down before I do this so that I don't have to worry about cleaning up a mess. Get it down to that corner. Now bring it down to these two corners. Now this may turn out being a total, I don't know, waste. I don't think I'm liking it too much. I don't know. That's alright. The panel didn't cost a lot. I buy the panels from Hobby Lobby and they come in like packs of 5 or so and they're not very much. So, you know, I mean, it's not going to be a big waste if I'm not extremely happy with this. The paint, and some of the paint, like I said, I already had it mixed up and I needed a reason to use it. So I'm not going to be extremely upset if it doesn't turn out perfectly the way I would like it to. And all I'm really seeing is green a lot of green and a little bit of yellow. I'm trying to get it down to that corner. And I still have some paint in that cup, so I will probably find something else to pour on. Like I said, when you do this, it gets addictive. And when I'm pouring on something and I have leftover paint, I'm always like, oh, what else could I pour on? And I go looking for something else to pour on, because I hate wasting paint. Now if I can get it down to this corner. Whoop, don't want to drop that. Come on, just a little bit farther. Okay. Well, that's it. Wait, I got a booger here. Get that off there. All right. So I don't really see a very noticeable pattern or anything, but if I mean, I could always just swap this, or I could pour all of this, tilt it until it all pours onto another plate like this, and try to make patterns on the plate. Let me show you. So acrylic pouring is very messy, can't help it. So now I've got this on this plate, and I'm going to try to tilt this a little bit to try to get something pretty to where I could make a bookmarker or something. So I just tilt it around. And sometimes I get really pretty designs, and then sometimes it's just like, eh. But I keep these plates for that. So that's what I've got on the plate. Let's see. So I will let this dry. And see, also a tip right here. I have to set this out of the way over here. It's dripping still here. And this is the reason I put a garbage bag down. It's dripping and it will dry. And it's easy to peel up off of a garbage bag. Like, see, I've got paint. And it just peels right up. From where I did pours last night. Easy to peel up. So as this drips, it's going to cause skins here. And it may not look like anything now, but when I come back in a little bit and it's went out, I may find some pretty patterns in that. Who knows? But I wish the vase was a little bit darker green. I mean, I really wanted that dark green. The panel. And I'm not overly excited about the panel. And there are sometimes canvases I have poured and I don't like them. I'm just like, I hate it or whatever. I'll take and I will reuse them. You can reuse canvases. If you've poured on a canvas and you don't like it, whenever you pour on anything, you want to let it cure. I mean, drying means that you can touch it, you know, it's dry. But curing means that you let it sit and the paint hardens. So, like if I painted this and I let it sit, I can touch it, I can handle it or whatever. But if it's not cured, if anything touches it, it can peel the paint right off. And I've had that happen to me. I poured vases before and I set them too close to each other and they kind of touched. And when I picked them up, the paint come off because I hadn't let it cured. I'll show you a couple vases I've done. I've been letting these cure and I love this color. I don't know if you can see it. I love these colors. These are like gold, bronze, brown, turquoise. I had done a beach pour on a Unique in the Creek character board, and I had paint left over. And I had this vase, and I thought, oh, that's going to be pretty. But the thing on the bottom, this is what I'm talking about. The paint was too thick on the bottom, so when it dried, it cracked some. So that's why I try to make sure it's not too thick. And then this is another vase with the same colors. These two vases, they are different, but they're the exact same colors that I used. So this vase, this is from the beach colors that I used. And again, the bottom cracked because I had it too thick. And see right here, that's because I hadn't let it cure, and I had set it on a table and I hadn't let it cure long enough. So when I picked it up, it peeled that off. And it was actually my white table, so that's why that's there. So that's why it's important to let them cure. Anyone who's new to my page, you can go to my photo section on my page and go to the albums, and I have my albums like my wreaths. You can click on that album and you can see pictures of all the wreaths that I've made. And then I have Acrylic Pours album. You can click on that and see all like the vases and the paintings and things that I've poured. And then I have other ones, I think it's called like My Creations, where I do flower arrangements and things, and then just some DIYs. So go to my photos and check out my albums and look at my pictures, some other things. And then go to my videos. I have tutorials that I have posted, and I have Facebook Lives that I've done. I've done a lot. I haven't done a live in a few months, but I still have lives that I was doing on a regular basis, and they're all in my video section. So if you guys want to learn more about me, the things that I create and what I love to do, go check out my videos and my photo album. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm going to let y'all go for now. So until next time, bye everybody.